The night was not dark, it was gold drowned in sorrow. The palace lights shimmered like fallen stars, but inside, Fazza's heart was quieter than the sands after a storm. He walked alone through the corridor of mirrors, each reflection showing a prince, none revealing the man. His robe whispered secrets to the marble floor, his breath fogged the air like prayer. Once, this same heart beat to the rhythm of laughter and poetry. Now it carried the weight of silence. He stepped onto his balcony, where the desert spread like destiny, endless, burning, faithful. He looked into that horizon and said, "Is greater than, O desert, my oldest friend." Have you ever loved something that could never stay? The wind did not answer, but it moved softly, as if to remind him that even silence can speak in sand. He thought of her, the echo of his forgotten smile, the muse who once danced in his verses. Her memory still lingered, a perfume that refused to fade. "Is greater than, you promised forever," he murmured. "But forever has a cruel way of ending." He closed his eyes, and tears gathered like dew on morning petals. One fell, and the desert took it gently, burying it among a million grains of untold stories. "Is greater than, perhaps," Fazza whispered. "Pain is not the enemy, it is the teacher who stays too long." He turned from the balcony, and in that turning, he left behind the smile of a prince, and carried instead the silence of a man reborn in ache. Days passed like tired birds. Each sunrise rose slower, each sunset bled longer. Fazza buried himself in duty, the crown heavier than before. People saw his grace, his calm, his unbroken poise, but none saw the storm inside. He wrote letters to the wind, letters never sent, poems never read aloud. "Is greater than, if love was my light," he wrote, "then why does every dawn remind me of what I've lost?" At night he rode through the dunes, his horse's hooves thudding like heartbeats. He stopped at the ancient well, where his mother once told him, "Water reflects truth, but only when the wind is still." He looked down. The reflection trembled, and so did he. He spoke to the water. "Is greater than, tell me, what is the purpose of pain?" And the water whispered back in ripples, "Is greater than, to break you open, so light can find a way." He smiled faintly. Finally, the moonlight traced his face, and for the first time, the tears that fell were not of grief, but of gratitude. He returned to the palace, with a heart slightly lighter, a soul slightly freer. He began to write again, not of loss, but of endurance, of how love leaves its echo, even when it leaves the body. "Is greater than, I am not empty," he wrote. "I am echo, a voice shaped by what I've survived." The morning came with quiet courage. The prince, who once wept in silence, now stood tall beneath the same sky, the same crown, but a different heart. He looked at the horizon, no longer searching, but understanding. "Is greater than pain," he said softly. "You were never my enemy. You were my sculptor." He gathered his people at dawn. They expected command. He gave them poetry. "Is greater than, a heart that breaks," he told them, "learns to feel. A ruler who cries learns to heal." The crowd stood still. Their prince, not of perfection, but of truth. And the desert wind carried his words like prayer. That night he returned to the dune, where the silence once suffocated him. Now it welcomed him like an old friend. He sat, wrote one final line in his journal. Is greater than, from pain I was born again, not as a prince of power, but as a man who understands love. He closed the book. The falcon flew overhead. The moon smiled its approval. The desert exhaled, soft, golden, infinite. And Fazza, the poet of the dunes, the prince of hearts, finally whispered into the wind, is greater than thank you for the shadows. They taught my heart how to shine.